So we were able to really take that product with more limited value to these folks and exchange it for this hybrid life long-term care product option or options with a great deal of value.
Hear how this breakaway firm used DPL's tools and technology to make the transition to independence. You're listening to Advisor Revelations.
Hello, I would like to welcome everyone to the Advisor Revelations podcast. I'm Amy Arnett, Director of Insurance Solutions at DPL Financial Partners. Today, we are going to talk about how advisors like our guest joining us today are successfully implementing long-term care through DPL's insurance desk and what strategies are currently bringing their clients success. I'd like to introduce you to Tom Dettre. He's with True North and is located up in Burlington, Vermont. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on, Amy. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. Before we start our discussion today, I do want to remind our listeners to please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite streaming app for updates. If anything we talk about today interests you, be sure to connect with me on our website at dplfp.com. All right, Tom, why don't we start out by sharing more about who you are, your background, more about True North, and how long you've been partnered with DPL so far.
Sure. So I founded True North Financial Planning about 10 years ago, really with a mission to serve clients using a holistic, goals-based approach that considers a person's or a family's whole financial picture and how all the pieces fit together or could fit together. Prior to that, earlier on in my career, I started by going the CPA route, then moved into corporate finance for quite a few years. So moving into the financial advisory space and starting my own firm was really a career 2.0 move for me in many ways. So now I continue to operate True North as a solo advisor with close to 100 active clients currently. And on the investment side, I focus more on assets under advisement and not just assets under management, which I think really gives me some flexibility to consider options such as annuities for at least a portion of client assets in the right situations. I'm really pleased I've been partnering with DPL for about 2.5 years now. At this point, I look forward to many more years of that partnership.
Good. How did you first hear about DPL?
So really through the ACPA, American Institute of CPAs, where I've been a member for quite a few years, even back to my CPA days. Every year they have a big CPA industry-wide conference called Engage, typically in Las Vegas. So a few years ago, I stopped by the DPL desk there. And at that time, I was really looking for a more sort of robust insurance solution. And DPL really brought a lot to the table from my perspective. So that started with a number of clients I was working with who had been sold high-cost, commission-laden annuities that really weren't serving them well. So I learned from the DPL folks and quickly realized that some of the annuity options that DPL brought to the table would really serve my clients much better. So that really sort of started off the relationship, the partnership. I worked with a number of those clients to exchange those types of annuities into the DPL low-cost, commission-free annuity products after evaluating how wide a range of annuity products are out there that DPL offers. And then that's really grown to positioning annuities as a viable retirement planning, retirement income tool or solution for the right situations. Mm-hmm. So I really expanded that aspect of my offerings, if you will, and value proposition to clients. So I'm really pleased with all of that.
Good. So what specifically sparked your career shift and really started diving into the insurance space? Was there any kind of an event or any specific reason for you to start looking more into the insurance side of planning?
Yeah, for me, I've always been interested in personal financial planning. So when you're a CPA and a financial professional, people think you know all there is to know about finances and planning and taxes. But the real catalyst for me to make the leap from my former career was the experience I had with my dad, who had Parkinson's. And I was fortunate to be able to work with him in the last couple of years of his life. Fortunate and grateful to have been able to really help him in the last couple of years of his life with managing his financial affairs, as well as many other aspects of helping him navigate through the difficulty of Parkinson's. So I found that to be very rewarding, and that really helped to further spark my interest in financial planning. And in addition to that, my dad had a real legacy of serving others.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that for me, helping people with their financial planning and in that way, adding value to their lives was a way I could really carry on my dad's legacy of service, which was really important to me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I can completely relate with the family situation because I've gone through a very similar scenario currently going through with my mom and
Yes.
went through a scenario with my dad. So, this long-term care is a real passion of mine. And I can tell that, and based upon what we've shared together already, that fits right along with your planning for your clients as well.
Yep.
When
Sure.
you first started working with DPL, what was your biggest need 2 years ago, and why did you feel like DPL was the best partner?
Yeah, so the initial need was, as I alluded to a couple of minutes ago, a focus on a few clients who had been sold those high-cost commission-laden annuity products and helping them sort of shift into what DPL was offering at that time and continues to offer as much better product options. Then as I learned more about the sort of broader range of what DPL can bring to the table, that led me down the long-term care path. And I had been increasingly working with a number of clients who had experience in some cases similar to my own experience with my dad and his Parkinson's and all that went with that. So clients who had long-term care, often with a family member, especially a parent. So I found in situations like those, and more of those clients, I seem to be landing in my office, folks in that situation who have had firsthand experience with a long-term care event really makes those folks much more aware of how difficult a long-term care event can be and how difficult and draining it can be financially, physically, and emotionally. And that often leads to the recognition of the importance of long-term care planning, not always, but often involving the exploration of and recommendation from someone like me to look into long-term care insurance. But people, by and large, don't know how to go about looking into long-term care insurance or obtaining it or how much coverage they might need or what it might cost. So when you and I started working together, Amy, a year plus ago now, I had a number of clients in that kind of situation. So I was really excited to start working with you and your team and learn more about what you guys had to offer in DPL at large in terms of a wide range of really objective long-term care solutions for clients that can be tailored to meet client needs. I mean, that's a really key thing. I know, and you understand as well, that it's not a one-size-fits-all evaluation or proposition with something like long-term care insurance, where there's so many different options and ranges of costs and coverage.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, Amy, we've worked together on a long-term care insurance sort of analysis and placement for a number of clients. And I'm fortunate that I know I can trust and rely on you and your team and the DPL offerings. Know and have confidence that the DPL offerings and DPL Place long-term care and other insurance options, and that you guys are out there and scouring the market. And with your size and scale, you've got access to a broad range of solutions. So I found that to be really incredibly valuable to me and especially to my clients.
Well, good. I'm thrilled that you include that long-term care planning bucket when you're doing your reviews for your clients, because, it can be catastrophic to a retirement plan, and
Yes.
So making sure that's included as part of that process is invaluable. definitely invaluable. So I think it's great
Yep, for sure.
the way that you're taking that whole holistic approach. We at DPL, we understand that many advisors have a challenging time shopping around for insurance of any kind. And we really want to be able to keep all of your clients' assets under one roof for simplicity.
Yep.
And being able to serve them holistically, which is the whole reason why we created the insurance desk, is to be able to have that service for the advisor like yourself and the backroom support for anything insurance related. As a member, how has your experience been so far in utilizing this resource?
Yeah, so I really do value that DPL Life Desk as a one-stop shop approach with such a wide range of solutions from multiple carriers with, as I mentioned a minute ago, with DPL size and scale, and even beyond that, your expertise and objectivity to help us in a partnership way evaluate clients' needs and insurance options, all working together in the best interest of our clients. And prior to my starting with that partnership with DPL, searching for insurance solutions for me, and I think for many advisors, was often more disjointed. And it was hard to know if I was really getting a broad enough range of possible solutions or objective guidance and recommendations. So that's a real value element for me working with DPL in knowing that I have those broad range of solutions and the objective guidance.
Good. Well, one thing that is crucial, as I said, in creating these plans for your clients is to have a true understanding of long-term care and the impact that it can have on an individual's assets. And we're not just here to sell any type of product in the way insurance has been traditionally sold. I truly believe that the important part is educating and providing what those different options are that are available to the client and showing them how they work, what's the cost, and let them make that best decision that fits their needs for that holistic view. Yep. And just like annuities, a long-term care or LTC, it's almost become a dirty word. Sometimes it's hard to overcome how to explain this type of insurance and how it can really be beneficial to the clients. Is there any special way that you have in these client conversations that help make that not such a dirty word to your clients?
Yes. And I'll sort of walk through the process I take it all with an eye towards making long-term care insurance not such a dirty word. So as I mentioned earlier, clients, people who have experienced long-term care usually really get it and are often very open to long-term care conversations and sometimes even ask me proactively, often early in the planning process, about long-term care and can we look into it as we pull their planning together. So for those folks, and even those without personal long-term care experience, the way I position long-term care is really in a couple of different ways. First, financially, starting with pulling together usually a baseline planning scenario as we work together to develop what I refer to as the foundational financial plan, first phase of the planning process with new clients. And hopefully that baseline planning scenario shows that a client has a high or high enough probability to meet their financial goals over the long term. Mm-hmm. Then, as a sort of a second step or scenario, I'll throw in a long-term care event or events for couples oftentimes, starting with typically average long-term care costs and duration. And in doing so, the way I describe that often is shooting a long-term care torpedo at an otherwise well-constructed financial plan and seeing how the planning sort of reacts to that. And often that points to the recommendation or really need, in many cases, to look into a solution like long-term care insurance to help protect a client financially from the full impact of a long-term care event. As you and I have talked about, Amy, multiple times with many clients, it's not always about full protection, but at least ideally a good amount of protection from the most devastating financial impacts of long-term care to really preserve resources as much and as long as possible. And secondly, I think it's important as well, and you touched on this a few minutes ago, Amy, to provide education to show clients that long-term care events happen to very many people, and not just in old age, sometimes sooner than old age. And that a long-term care event, as we talked about earlier, can be really devastating to not only the person experiencing a long-term care event, but to family members as well in many different ways. So I do that, not to scare people, but really to, again, provide that education and to try to open people's eyes, and as a way to provide them with information to help with decision making.
Yeah.
Typically, when I get this far with the client and have some idea of how much long-term coverage might make sense to preserve at least a good chunk of their assets longer term, at that point is when I often reach out to you, Amy, and often together with the client, we'll see what long-term care insurance might be available and at what premium cost and what range of options there may be.
Right. Well, and you nailed it on the head. Number one, the parents may think that the kids will take care of them. Yep. And maybe initially the kids have a good intention, to take care of the parent. But at some point in time, you cross that threshold where you become their caretaker and not their child anymore. And you just want to be their child. And then you might not be able to take the best care of them. So, by having that long-term care coverage, it really helps. It keeps the children and parent relationship as children parent and not as caretaker parent. There's situations that are uncomfortable for both, in caretaking.
Yeah.
A lot of people just might not think about right off the top. So,
having that coverage in place can really be thought of as a gift from parents to their kids and other family members and anyone else involved named on their documents or who might otherwise be responsible for their care. That peace of mind, even before something happens, to know that there is, that financial coverage, and even beyond that, ideally a long-term care plan in place, sort of wrapped around long-term care insurance if it's placed.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of thinking of it, as a gift, because I can tell you that when my daddy bought his coverage, he said, I don't want my daughter changing my diaper. So, he put this this long-term care coverage in place so that I wouldn't have to be expected to do that. We had the funds to be able to bring somebody in to take care of that. Is there any specific story or case that stands out to you? Because I know that we've done a lot of reviews for individuals of your clients with the options of long-term care, where we truly helped you solve for their need and provide peace of mind with the strategies and solutions that we offered.
Yeah. So as you said, we have worked on quite a number of client situations, and I hope many more as we go forward. One client story that comes to mind is a couple in their mid-40s to early 50s who were very interested in long-term care planning. They fell into the group of folks who had some personal experience. One of them, their mom, has been having a hard time and I think is in a skilled nursing facility. So long-term care planning was early on a priority for this couple. So they were really interested in finding good long-term care insurance solutions, options for their situation. And at the same time, before we started working together, they had obtained some pretty sizable variable universal life insurance policies that they had been paying into for a number of years and building the account value. And in addition, they had other life insurance, a lot of term life coverage that on its own, based when we did their sort of life insurance evaluation as part of their planning, that other term life insurance really more than met their life insurance coverage needs. So from a life insurance standpoint, they were overinsured. So working together, you and I, Amy, were able to find several hybrid life long-term care insurance policy options available to them for a tax-free 1035 exchange to be able to provide a significant amount of long-term care insurance coverage just by exchanging that VUL, variable universal life account value, into an immediate upfront premium for a hybrid life long-term care product. And even with an option to layer on more in the way of long-term care coverage on top of that sort of baseline amount, with some additional premiums over the next 5 or 10 years, but at a much lower premium level than would have been the case had they not had the significant sort of VUL assets to exchange into a hybrid policy. So that really was a great situation to have been able to work on. And from my perspective, a good example of great value that can really be obtained by really understanding where people are, what their needs are, what they've already got financially. In some cases, that might seem like it's just sort of a stranded, asset or product. In many cases, don't have any idea that there can be something like a 1035 exchange into something else that might meet their needs better. So I think that's a good sort of case in point.
What people's needs were 10, 15, 20 years ago aren't necessarily their needs today. So when they took permanent insurance out in the beginning, it was for specific reasons normally. But now today, maybe that permanent insurance isn't as much of a need, so they want to find ways to conserve the growth in that policy and redirect it somewhere else. And a lot of times it's real beneficial to redirect it into a hybrid long-term care policy. So policy reviews are invaluable in order to help make sure that what the clients have is still what they really need and, making changes accordingly so that it still fits within their projected plan. So I really appreciate you participating today, Tom.
Yep.
I think it's a topic that we could probably spend a whole day discussing. But
yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank everyone for being with us today. And again, let's connect at dplfp.com and subscribe for more episodes anywhere you listen to podcasts.
And thank you, Amy. And once again, I very much appreciate the partnership I have with you and your team and with DPL at large. And I know True North wouldn't be where it is now if not for DPL. So I very much appreciate this partnership and look forward to continuing to build on it.
We appreciate it, Tom, and we appreciate the relationship also.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. To hear more advisor revelations, go to dplfp.com and subscribe on your favorite podcast streaming app.